All right. So now it is that your girl's recording. Let's go ahead. Let's jump into this next damn reaction, shall we? Now, Jamari, shout outs to you. Druski's allegations. This wasn't something it is I was expecting in my bingo card for 2025 to be talked about. But as of yesterday, Druski was being discussed quite a bit of some alleged allegations with Diddy, and then you had Odell Beckham Jr. in the mix. Like, I'm just confused. So without further ado, let's go ahead. Let's get into this, y'all.
So Druski has been an up-and-coming star for around the last 4 years. He was ushered into the internet game around the same time as his good friend Jack Harlow, and it was like as Jack was rising up the ranks of music, Druski was rising up the ranks of comedy. During that time, he has become the most infamous skit comedian online, and this has obviously afforded him many opportunities, including his own show, countless sponsorships and commercials, features in movies, stake in Happy Dad alcoholic beverages, a feature on 2K, a comedy tour, and frequent collaborations with the biggest streamers and comedians in the world. Basically, this man became a cash cow, as Druski has an insane ability to take everyday situations and types of people and turn them into a viral skit or a meme. And his comedy just has this way of reflecting and predicting in real life situations. But now Druski has found himself wrapped up in the Diddy situation, as he and his friend and popular wide receiver, Odell Beckham Jr., have been listed in some of these Diddy accusations. But the claims they are throwing around here are honestly so outlandish that it almost makes this hard to believe. Now, yesterday was when this bombshell would hit the timeline. In the matter of Ashley Parham versus Sean Diddy Combs, an amended complaint names 2 more plaintiffs and several additional defendants, including Odell Beckham Jr., Druski, and a myriad of other people. So previously, it was just Ashley Parham versus Sean Diddy Combs, and then a couple John Does that were not listed, and now those John Doe.
Damn it, coach. Crash out.
The main ones have been listed as Druski and Odell Beckham Jr. In total, Druski's name is actually listed 45 different times in this lawsuit. But these are the key details that really make everyone think that this is pretty far-fetched. Defendant Diddy then instructed another defendant Doe to also violate plaintiff defendant Doe, who has been determined to be defendant Druski, is what they're alleging. They say instead of
the face that Druski had in that picture is exactly how it is that I feel, because it's like, what
immediately violating the plaintiff, defendant Druski doused plaintiff with more oil and lubricant and then jumped on top of the plaintiff's naked and oiled body, treating it like a slip and slide, and knocking the wind out of the plaintiff due to his enormous size. So they're saying Druski was in there slipping and sliding all around. Defendant Druski then caught himself from sliding over the plaintiff's oiled body, and off the bed, he then began violating the plaintiff through her reproductive parts. While defendant Druski was violating the plaintiff, defendant Diddy sat in a chair near the bed and began pleasuring himself while recording plaintiff's violation by defendant Druski. Another party's phone fell on the bed near the plaintiff. The plaintiff then attempted to grab the phone, but it slipped out of her hands and onto the floor due to the oil/lubricant that had been doused all over her person by defendants Diddy and Druski. Obviously, at this point, the baby oil is like infamous in this Diddy case. For those of you who don't remember, they claim that they discovered over 1,000 bottles of laced baby oil in Diddy's house.
And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs. More than 1,000 bottles altogether.
Defendant Diddy began laughing at plaintiff's attempt to grab the phone. Throughout this violent gang violation, defendant Diddy made constant belittling remarks to plaintiff, including that he owned her now. When defendant Druski was finished violating the plaintiff, defendant KK entered the room to examine the condition of the plaintiff, who was barely able to move or control her bodily functions. And they say this is when they attached her to an IV and pretty much brought her back to life, made sure she wasn't gonna die. And that was apparently when Diddy, Shane, who is apparently the man who introduced Diddy to this person, KK, Odell, and Druski then exited the residence to the backyard where they smoked marijuana and cigarettes. And so obviously this all had the internet going absolutely wild. Of course, people immediately started resurfacing old clips of Diddy hanging out with Druski.
Don't mind if I do.
They were basically saying that this clip hits different now, as it was also rumored that Diddy had been lacing drinks at his infamous parties.
I wouldn't, shot.
Druski was also asked at one point what it was like to attend these Diddy parties.
You ever been to one of Diddy parties?
Yeah, I've been in attendance. I've been in attendance. Not, hey, what the fuck you smirking for?
ain't saying that.
I've been in attendance.
We just asking regular
That's all I
questions.
said. That's all I said. I said I've been in attendance. I have been in attendance.
We never been. We just asking.
We just
Yeah,
asking.
yeah. As soon as you asked, he said,
You have fun?
I ain't seen that yet.
"Yeah, you did."
I ain't seen that.
Yeah, I had fun. Yeah, I mean, it was a party. I wasn't at one of them parties.
Oh, he said, we ain't say nothing about the party. What party you talking about?
Niggas, y'all
What
smiling too much.
parties you talking
about? Say that.
I have been in attendance.
He's been to it. I mean, I know a few people that have been to the Rockefeller brunch as well, where Diddy has also been present at. Now, I don't feel Druski, like, the allegations is kind of far-fetched. I guess if that's the wording it is that I would like to say. Diddy's case or his trial is going to start on May 5th. So in about less than 2 months from now. But the allegations is so kind of like out there that I don't believe this with Druski. I really don't. Right, you never really know what's like with the internet because it's like AI and stuff like that. But then again, like I just don't have a word really to say. Because it's just like it doesn't sound like credible.
It's at a puff party. You know what I'm saying? I've been in attendance. Yeah, I went. Yeah, the party I went to, it was girls turn up. You know what I'm saying? The regular. You know what I mean? Other celebrities and shit. Yeah,
That's what you do.
Now, obviously, Druski does like to troll. Yes, his body language became a little bit uncomfortable, but you do have to keep in mind that thousands of different people have been to these Diddy parties, allegedly.
Right.
And obviously, when they're all asked about it, they all say, well, I went to the Diddy party, but I didn't go to, like, the Diddy party, like the behind the doors party that was going on. So then I started questioning, well, what was...
I mean, there's a lot of people that went to Diddy's parties and stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is that they went to those Diddy parties. You know what I mean? Now, this is why it is what Druski's saying. I'm like, all right, like I don't think is that crazy.
Diddy's relationship with Druski. And as you guys can see here, back in 2021, Druski did have this show called Sneaking In with Druski. And upon further inspection, you can see that this was airing on Revolt, which was a media network that was primarily owned and founded by Sean Diddy Combs. And although he no longer owns any shares in the company, back in 2021, he was still running that shit, and he presumably gave that opportunity to his boy Druski. I also thought that this little tidbit was interesting because Odell Beckham Jr. and Druski have been friends for quite a few years now. Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. struck up a friendship
he's
with
on the
Druski
Ravens
upon
now?
finding his videos and invited the comedian to stay at his home during the COVID-19 pandemic. And obviously, the pandemic was back in early 2020, and that's where these dates really start not matching up because the defendant is saying that this happened on March 23rd, 2018, way before Druski was even remotely famous or known online, where the defendant says that this guy
okay.
Shane invited the plaintiff over to his home to assist him with his cancer medications because he was weak and unable to open his medications. She says upon her arrival that this guy Shane wanted to give her a ride in his new car, and she says this is when this guy Shane pretty much set her up for the violation that allegedly involved Diddy, Druski, and OBJ. Now, much like with Jay-Z with his recent Diddy accusations, Druski would respond swiftly to this filing, where he says the allegation is a fabricated lie. I wasn't a public figure in 2018. I was broke and living with my mom without any connections to the entertainment industry at the time of this allegation, so the inclusion of my name is truly outlandish. My heart breaks for actual victims of abuse, but I'm fully confident that the evidence will expose this falsehood and the individuals who are maliciously trying to game the legal system to peddle false narratives. So he kind of has the same stance that Jay-Z had back a couple months ago, saying this whole thing is a bunch of bullshit and the timeline isn't even really adding up. And of course, when something like this comes out, you're gonna have a lot of people running with the story. Like this tweet that went viral where this girl says, "I can't believe hashtag Odell Beckham Jr. and hashtag Druski are in this new Diddy lawsuit taking turns violating this girl."
First of all, you're putting the wrong person within the tweet. How are y'all going after Odell Beckham Jr. and Druski, but then you have the main corporate that has also bared witness to a woman getting shot in 1999, and she has never given any money to the victim. If anything, she acts like it is the situation never happened. Allegedly. And using her gift is hilarious. I don't have any ill will towards J-Lo, but she was involved with the shooting with Diddy. I mean, she was wholeheartedly involved with it, and she's been quiet. She has been quiet ever since. She has been real quiet about with this. Jimmy, what's up, Jimmy? Coincidence? I think not.
Wow. You had other popular hip-hop and media pages saying Druski did what? The same sentiment is shared here, ironically including this misinformation meme. Then you had people using Druski's own skits against him, like this guy who says there's no way that this Druski shit is real. Basically saying that that was Druski's reaction to this information. Another user says Druski after someone didn't give him consent.
Wow.
Dude, like, come on, be real.
This guy specifically seems to really be leading the charge when it comes to these Druski jokes about this very serious situation. He says Druski's lawyer right now.
We got good and bad news. Good news, we got your payment, buddy. Bad news, they gave you life. Sayonara.
So yeah, it's just crazy to see this guy's own skits and various statements being used against him at this point, even if it is a joke. These are the type of things that people try to get off online, and they do end up going viral. And it's really all just for a couple little Twitter shekels and a little bit of clout. Like, it's not worth making this type of weird, shitty joke, whether you believe he's guilty for some reason or not. Because honestly, I think it's a whole bunch of nonsense.
Right,
and
agree.
it leads to other people making more serious statements like this. Okay, so now that Druski was named in the Diddy lawsuit for gang violation, this creepy skit he made in 2022 about guys getting girls drunk to have sex with them is aging so horribly.
This is actually, I remember this skit actually. Like, and I've like, listen, y'all know it is. I've been to college. This is actually something it is that people have done that at the time it is, you know, being a young adult, you don't realize to what is really going on at the time of the essence. But yes, there are men and there is even women, because women go ahead and go as far as doing it too, of trying to make you peer pressure you into doing, you know, drinking. I've experienced this quite a bit of times where I'm like, I don't want to drink. It's just like, oh, come on, you gotta take a shot. And especially me, like I'm listen, I am terrible at taking shots. So, you know, I'll take like maybe like a half of the cup of the shot because it's something that's extremely strong, extremely something it is that I don't drink as it is. Not necessarily in the mood to even drink that to begin with. And then you'll have the people that will peer pressure you. They'll be like, oh, come on. Like, oh, you babysitting the shot. Like, nah, you gotta take a shot, take a shot, take a shot. And then you get to a point to where it is you're reaching past your own limits, getting drunk, and then having people, both men and women, it's sad to say it is that women do this, that will leave you in these situations as a state of vulnerability around with the opposite sex. That stuff like that, I have an ill problem with. I have an ill problem with. It is bad that people have done that. So with this skit, I know some people was like, oh, that's weird. This and this. But Druski was actually the first person that I could think of that actually talked about that and kind of opened up the eye of what that was in front of us. because or putting like a name to it. You know what I mean? Because I never really realized this until I went to therapy, and I had a therapist kind of like explain what that is, and then to see the skit, I was like, wow, like nobody actually really has done a skit like that. So unfortunately, this actually does happen.
And it's like, does the person that posted this not understand that the entire point of this skit was to pretty much dog out guys that act like this?
Correct.
Like, the whole point of the skit is to say that guys who act like this are pieces of shit. Now, here is a clip from 4 months ago of this news network, and of the lawyer representing this woman, Ashley Parham, in this case, and now these other 2 Jane Does, speaking on behalf of her client and the entire situation.
Well, her attorney says she was in her 30s at the time of this alleged violent attack. It happened just about half a mile away from the Orinda police station here in a quiet neighborhood about 6 years ago.
So yeah, 6 years ago, long before Druski was known at all.
Ashley Parham says in 2018, Diddy and his entourage violently gangbang style her in Orinda. Her attorney, Auriel Mitchell, says it all started when she met a man named Shane Pierce in a bar in Contra Costa County, who began a FaceTime call with Diddy.
She actually made a quip about Mr. Combs having something to do, that she didn't like him because he had something to do with Tupac's murder.
The lawsuit says Parham believed Pierce invited her over to set her up to be by Diddy. The Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office told us in a statement, a report was taken on March 23, 2018. We take these cases seriously, and detectives thoroughly investigated the accusations. It was later determined the claims were unfounded.
And that does make things a little bit more interesting for me, because obviously a legitimate report was made at that time, but even back then the police say, well, we found no wrongdoing. As a matter of fact, they're saying we don't believe this ever even happened.
She also reported the incident to Walnut Creek Police and Orinda Police without naming Diddy, as she felt she would not be believed. The woman who lives there confirms Pierce lived there, but that he was too sick with cancer and ALS to have died.
Are you asking, does Diddy have something to do with Tupac's murders and Biggie murder? The conspiracy in me says yes. I've always kind of felt that he was responsible for both of their murders. Now, mind you, for the second time that Tupac got shot, which led into the fatal death, he survived that. It wasn't until it is like, he got to the hospital and it was internal bleeding, but they couldn't figure out where the internal bleeding was from, which, due to the complications, Tupac was not going to have a lung. He was going to have a finger. I don't think it is, even if he was to survive, I don't think it is he would be able to really project the way how it is that he would. I mean, he would still be able to live. I mean, you can live without a lung, you'd be able to go ahead and do that. Without a finger, you'll be fine, but, getting shot up one time, surviving it, then going to prison for an allegation it is that, it was proven to be false. And then to get shot up again is crazy. With Biggie, I wholeheartedly feel like it is that he had something to do with it. He said, no, it's not a statement. I believe it. Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe it.
Done this. She also says Pierce did not know Diddy.
So they're saying this guy has not only cancer, but also ALS. Now, if I really want to get into my conspiracy bag, I want to note here that I think that this all could just be a mastermind smokescreen being set by Diddy and his legal team. It's like Pokemon, okay? The accuracy goes down once you set the smokescreen. Because recently, the case against Jay-Z has been dropped without prejudice, which I believe means that they cannot, try to bring it back up in court. They cannot try Jay-Z again for the same thing. Obviously, there was a lot of holes in the timeline of that story. The accuser's own father said that he doesn't remember any of that taking place. And overall, the timeline and the series of events, especially when she came out on that news segment, just really were not adding up. And when the decision by the judge was made public and that entire thing was dismissed, Sean Combs' legal team would put out this statement. Today's complete dismissal by the 1-800 attorney is yet another confirmation that these lawsuits are built on falsehoods, not facts. For months, we have seen case after case filed by individuals hiding behind anonymity, pushed forward by an attorney more focused on media headlines than legal merit. Just like this claim, the others will fall apart because there is no truth to them. Sean Combs has never essayed or trafficked anyone, man or woman, adult or minor. No number of lawsuits, sensationalized allegations, or media theatrics will change that reality. We will continue to fight these baseless claims and hold those responsible for these false claims. This is just the first of many that will not hold up in the court of law. And that's why I have the feeling that this entire thing is a bit of a smokescreen. Because if you have enough of these outrageous allegations coming out, it allows you to kind of start poking holes and giving a little bit of reasonable doubt to accusations that could actually be legit. And it's like the more outlandish they get, like describing Druski as using her as a slip and slide and then the timeline not adding up at all, it just hurts the case for people who are possibly actual victims of abuse at the hands of P. Diddy. And at this point, it's like Diddy seems so seemingly stuck in this corner that it's like that's all they can do to kind of like alter the public perception a little bit. And as these cases start getting knocked down and dismissed, it kind of starts the social programming and people start to think, well, maybe these other things aren't real either. And obviously on the other end of the spectrum, you're going to have a whole bunch of people just bringing up false claims because they want a payday, they want a settlement. It's just the way they describe the entire series of events just seems a little bit too outlandish for me personally to believe. And I think...
Don't get me wrong. Do I feel like it is that Diddy is a sweetbread? No. Do I feel like it is Jay-Z's a sweetbread? No. I still feel like it is that there are some things that... heinous things it is that they have done. However, it is starting to get to this point to where, I mean, there's so many new cases it is that are being filed. Unfortunately, it is like, you know, you can file any type of case. But for these people, it is that are putting out these false allegations about with this and hoping to get some type of money or a payday from this, it's really going to hurt not only the real victims, you know, it's going to cause them to not want to speak out, not want to have to go through this, because now it's just like, okay, if this happens, and let's say, for example, it is that Diddy goes onto this trial in May, and then come to find out that this huge case that got him incarcerated for this long, denied bond 3 times or even more, gets dismissed. That is really going to be the eye opener. I hope it is, like, you know, I would pray it is that doesn't happen. But all of these frivolous allegations it is that's being put out there is going to make it harder for real victims to want to come forth and to speak about this because of this. And I've talked about this a lot of, you know, people who put out false allegations about with somebody, and then it just makes it more difficult for people who, and even more traumatic, because now they're, you know, that causes them to get more triggered. You know, they're going to feel like it is that people may not believe them, and may not even want to speak out openly about with this, you know? So I guess to be continued with this, but I will say, like, for Druski to get involved with this, like Druski and Odell Beckham Jr., I feel like it is that's bogus. They should have never been involved to begin with. So that does suck. Hopefully it is like their names do get cleared, because that's so ridiculous. But Jamari, shout outs to you. Thank you so much for the video. Shout outs to y'all in the chat. Shout outs to you at home, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.